Yes, we have two people signed up for public comments this morning. Give me just 1 minute to pull the list. I see. We have Dr. Sheila Simmons on the line.
Did you want to do the roll call?
Yeah. Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Thank you, Nancy. Let's do a
Yes,
roll.
we do have a couple people on the line for that. Do you want to do roll call first?
Please.
Okay. Rosenwasser,
Present.
Burton,
Present.
Abel,
Present.
Combs,
Here.
Lott. Is Mayor Lott on the line? Okay, don't see Mayor Lott.
Attention everyone, please stay on by. We are trying to get our audio configured. Thank you.
Okay. Jackson Sims. David Hollis. Mr. Hollis, are you on the line? Okay. Catherine O'Donnelly. Chrissy Nieves. Elizabeth Strom. Elizabeth.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And then we had standing in for Councilman Goods, we had Sonia Henderson. Are you on the line? Okay, I don't hear her. We do not have a quorum today.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's go back to the public comments, please.
Test, test.
Mr. Rosenwasser, we did have Chrissy Nieves join on the line.
Okay, thank you very much. We have some public comments. Who's on the line?
We should have Dr. Sheila Simmons Tribble on the line for public comment.
Dr. Tribble?
This is McCowell.
Please go ahead. Doctor?
Dr. Tribble?
I'm on the line.
You can go ahead and speak, ma'am.
Hello.
Yes, Dr. Tribble, you can go ahead and speak.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. It's very low.
I'm sorry.
I
We'll speak up.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I am Sheila Simmons Tribble from HOPE, the Hillsborough Organization for Progress and Equality, and a member of Bible-Based Fellowship Church. As AHAB members, you know Hillsborough County has an affordable housing crisis. And today we are asking for accountability on the use of the local HOPE Fund to meet that crisis. For 6 years, HOPE worked to get the county to tackle our housing crisis. That was because over 75,000 families with very low incomes were spending over half of their income on housing. These working families are our essential workers, nurses' aides, teachers' aides, clerks, janitors, and daycare workers. Um, we're glad that the affordable housing developments are underway in Hillsborough County, and particularly using those funds. In September 2019, the BOCC passed the Affordable Housing Act and put $10 billion in the 2020 and 2021 budgets to help alleviate that need. We now understand that the 2021 funds are being used. In doing our research, it's our understanding that committed so far is 500,000 to the Center for Women, a million to the East Tampa Business and Civic Association, as well as around 653,000 for shared housing acquisition and rehab, and another 100,000 for training of local housing organizations. We're concerned that while the need is great for housing, especially housing that's affordable for seniors and working families with very low income, there are only 2.5 months left in the 2021 fiscal year, and the request for proposals for 800,000 of the remaining 2021 funds have still not been used. Are you aware of the Hope Fund Affordable Housing Act, as well as the 2020-2021 biennial plan that describes how and what income level the Hope Fund can be used? Are you monitoring how and when the funds are used? Please let us know when the RFPs are being released to the public and what's being proposed for the use of the remaining 2021 Local Hope Fund. We're asking for accountability on the use of these local funds. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tribble. Who is next on the line?
Our second speaker should be Ms. Rashima McCoy. Is Ms. McCoy?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please.
Hi. Yes, I'm here to express my opinion about the cost of the rent and how it's affecting people. It's a high cost of rent right now in the area that I'm in. East Tampa, Sulphur Springs, pretty much all over Tampa Bay. And what it's doing is causing a lot of turmoil, a lot of confusion, a lot of suffering, a lot of oppression for people that whose wages haven't increased, who's lost their jobs due to COVID, who's gotten sick, who's caretaking for other people, who's disabled, things of that nature. And it's way too many people that are outside. I'm seeing people take baths outside, behind buildings when I'm driving by. I'm seeing people that are, furniture thrown out on the front, with their children. I'm seeing so many things that are happening on a regular basis. I also work in the community, so we get a lot of people that's asking questions on where can I live? The prices of the rent is so high. Not to mention the rules that help not helping them sustain where if they could be there. Rules have changed to that's not fitting the standard of living. So my question is that I want to voice that concern right now and what can be done about that.
Thank you very much for your comments. Do we have anybody else?
No, sir. Those are the only two signed up for public comment today.
Thank you very much. The minutes are in your book. You can read them. However, we cannot vote to approve them. We do not have I don't believe we have a quorum either in person or in total. So we will defer that until the August meeting. I do not have a report, so we are ready for the report from Tyndale Oliver on the density bonus study.
Morning. How are y'all?
Good morning.
Just let me pull up my PowerPoint. I'm going to request a share. Okay. It's thinking about it. Here we go. Can y'all see it?
Yes.
Catherine, I can see it. This is
You
Jay.
can see it. Okay, great.
Yes, good morning. Real quick, if everyone can please remember to keep their mics muted when they're not speaking, that would be great. Thank you so much.
Okay, here we go. Okay, good morning. I'm Catherine Hartley. I'm the Community Planning Director for Tyndale Oliver, and we are working on the comprehensive plan policy and land development regulations that pertain to density bonuses for affordable housing. On my team are Steve Tyndale, who is the principal in charge for the project and obviously the president of the company, Negan Camp, Ali and Kudovich, and Patrick Doherty. That's our team working on the project. So the scope of work was generally just taking a look at the existing language. We are working on a best practices white paper. We interviewed peer communities and affordable housing developers regarding, well, first of all, how the developers do a project for affordable housing around Florida. And then the peer communities were those that basically receive LIHTC or other funding from the Florida Housing Finance Corporation that are also in large counties that Hillsborough County competes with for money. So Palm Beach, Orange County, Broward County, Duval County, you get the idea, Pinellas County. We're also looking at market trends. And when we are done looking at those market trends, we're going to start developing some new criteria, and we're going to test those on certain parcels. So we've got a few of your surplus parcels that were on your list for appropriate for affordable housing. And in fact, I believe that's on your agenda today. It was approved by the Board of County Commissioners in June. And then we'll submit to the staff and to y'all our draft recommendations. We want to have a one-page flyer for the staff and developers so they can easily figure out how the process works. And then we'll submit our final report. So we had the kickoff meeting with the staff in April, and we reviewed the existing comprehensive plan language. I haven't had enough coffee this morning, y'all, sorry. We looked at the plan language and the land development code language. We took that criteria and we mapped it to see what parcels could be eligible today based on our interpretation of that criteria. And we did locate those peer communities that also had a density bonus program and interviewed them via Teams. And we also talked to several affordable housing developers again to talk about their projects and what worked for them and what didn't work for them. We're almost done with the best practice and case study report that will be submitted to staff this week. The draft is almost done. And we are working on the market research right now. So question is, how is affordable housing developed today? It's mostly with low-income tax credits and also leveraging other programs. The low-income tax credit program was developed through the 1986 changes to the tax code. It's allocated annually by Congress, and it gets filtered down to the Florida Housing Finance Corporation that also is where the SHIP program is housed. And again, Hillsborough County has to compete with other communities for that same bucket of money. So the 9% tax credit program is extremely competitive. There are way more projects that are not funded than are. And the Florida Housing Finance Corporation issues requests for applications annually. They should be coming out probably, I think, in August. They're starting to have their webinars right now about this year's application process. So how it works is an affordable housing developer will come to the local government, and if they're ready to submit their application, they just bring the planning director a bunch of forms to sign. And basically it's, does the plan meet zoning and your comprehensive plan? Does it have access to water and sewer? Is it located in a qualified census tract? So you sign all these forms and they turn that in along with their application. And those, there are, for the 9% tax credit deal, there are bonus points. They're like tiebreaker points that you have to earn because it is so competitive. It has to be proximate to a grocery store, a transit stop, not just a line, a pharmacy if the project's going to be for anyone over 55, a doctor's office, used to be libraries, but they took that off recently. And this map is a screen grab of a map. The dots actually represent flood risk, so you can ignore the color coding. It was a good looking map because you're able to kind of clearly see where the projects are. But these are all the projects that have been funded by the Florida Housing Finance Corporation over the last 20 or so years. So you can see where they're all located. So the existing criteria that y'all have today, that the county has today, it requires a rezoning and a conditional use in order to get the density bonus. The language is a little bit difficult to interpret. There's one criteria in particular that's related to jobs. It's very difficult to interpret. A rezoning takes a while. It can be a year or give or take, depending on how long it takes you on the private side to put your plan together and get a civil engineer and an attorney and a planner and all that stuff. So by the time you get to your concept to the final approval by the Board of County Commissioners, it can be a year. It's expensive. The fee for rezoning is just shy of $10,000. And that's just the application fee. So then you have to pay all the soft costs for the site plan and someone to represent you and so on and so forth. And it's a rezoning, so the outcome is uncertain for the applicant. So you can do everything that you need to do and still not have your project approved. So we tried to map the existing criteria for the project plan route that's in the plan and the code. As you can see, there are not that many parcels that are eligible because you can't really see them. They're in red on the map and you have to really zoom in to find a lot of these parcels. But the criteria that we used was the parcel had to be within the urban service area, water and sewer available, and we just made the assumption that if you're in the urban service area, water and sewer is available. Because getting utility maps from the utility department, they don't want to give those out, and that's totally normal, so we anticipated that. It has to be a mile within a transit line and 3 miles, within 3 miles of an economic development project that has 200 jobs. That was the tricky criteria. It also had to be compact, and a compact employment area, which that's pretty subjective. And it also has to be in a residential or commercial mixed-use future land use category with at least 4 units per acre. So that's, you can see the map, you can see not many parcels came up. So in total, it was 421 parcels, 351 total acres, and over 400 of those parcels were less than 5 acres. A lot of them were one-off, like single-family lots, like a platted lot that hadn't been developed yet. And so they were generally between 6,000 and 8,000 square feet. That's pretty normal for a single-family subdivision. So we talked to several local governments, and what we found is that density bonus policy around the state is still evolving. Local governments like Hillsborough County, you know, they have language for 7 years. They're determining maybe we could.
I'll take one home with me tonight.
I'm sorry?
Pick me the best one.
Excuse me, if you are not speaking, can you please mute your mic?
Was there a question? Okay. Density bonus policy is still evolving around the state. Local governments will try a policy for a while. If they don't feel like they're meeting their affordable housing goals, you know, you reassess your policies. As you know, the local governments are required to evaluate their comprehensive plan every 7 years, and Hillsborough County is going through that right now. And so we are looking at the specific policies regarding density bonuses for the update to the housing element of the comprehensive plan. At the time that we spoke to Fort Lauderdale and Broward County, they were just going through the amendment process themselves, adopting some different policies to increase density bonuses and other incentives in their community. Measuring success is pretty inconsistent across the board. The planning staff doesn't typically track the approvals over a long time. So they leave it up to the housing departments to, make sure that the applicants are signing the land use restriction agreement and so on and so forth. And so, and not only that, but not every local government has a target to build X amount of units. So for instance, the city of Tampa recently said, okay, we have a goal to build 10,000 dwelling units by 2027 or a target year in the future. But so many local governments don't have a target like that. And so that's why measuring success is difficult. Basically, what they said is that multiple strategies tend to work in concert with each other. So for instance, if you are giving someone a density bonus, you also have to take a look at the parking. Generally, if you require 2 spaces per unit, when you count the parking spaces plus half of a drive aisle, that's 600 square feet. That's basically a small one bedroom unit. So you can see that car storage is a big deal when it comes to any project really, but for affordable housing projects in particular. The area median incomes that local governments target, they vary across the board. So for instance, Hillsborough County, for the current density bonus program, it's for projects that are less than 80% of the area median income. Some communities go all the way up to 140% of area median income. So it's just a preference of the local government who they want to target for incentives for affordable housing. Most of them agreed that once you get into really high density, the bonuses aren't necessary. So parts of Miami had densities of 100 units an acre and up. And so just with that high density, they didn't need a bonus. The entitlements were already there. And generally, everyone agrees that every project is different and they all have their own challenges. And so you have to work through each project with the developer. Okay, so what we're doing now, we've basically summarized all the developer interviews. That's going to be in a separate paper from the white paper. We are finishing the market research this month. The white paper that will include the local government interviews, we're turning into staff this week. We're starting to work through some draft criteria based on what we have found so far, but we need to continue to look at the market reality. We're going to scenario test those parcels late this month, early August, and based on that testing, we'll refine our draft criteria. The final recommendations are due to the staff late September, early October, and we're having briefings and outreach throughout this whole process. So we've talked to the planning commissioners so far, and we have spoken to the Waimala community. They wanted a community meeting, so we talked with those folks. So some of the things for y'all to think about are, who do you want to target for incentives? Is it the folks that are at 80% and below of area median income, or do you want to start looking at moderate income workforce housing, which can go up to 140% of AMI? A huge consideration is whether or not you want these projects to continue to go through a public hearing process, like a rezoning, or if you want to make it an administrative process, which saves the applicant a lot of time and a lot of money. Are you willing to reduce those site design requirements like parking? And that has to be a consideration when you're going up in density and you still require these projects to be close to transit. Currently, the density bonus is the next highest future land use category. So for instance, if you're in the residential 6 future land use category, you can only go up to 9 units per acre. So the question is, do you want to go higher than that next category? And then, of course, you need to consider whether you want to continue to have the criteria like proximity to transit and services, or should you just get rid of those criteria in their entirety and just, promote affordable housing no matter where it's going to go. So that's one consideration, and that is recommended by the Florida Housing Coalition. So also, if you're going after the tax credits anyway, they have to meet those criteria. So it's sort of self-selecting based on your funding source. And that's all I have to share with you so far, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Board, this is Cheryl. Are there any questions?
Go ahead. Cody.
Great. Thank you so much, Catherine. I certainly enjoyed interfacing and working with the team, and just for the board's knowledge.
Can I ask a question before we let them go?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
sorry.
Please.
I was interested, Catherine, in the map that showed how few sites would be available. So I was wondering if you could talk about the research you did to get there. Like, what is it that is making sites ineligible? Is it that we don't have transit anywhere? Is it that it's hard to find the residential areas that meet the zoning criteria? Because with so few sites available, it becomes almost a moot point to make this density bonus available if there's no place in the county anyone can take advantage of it. So I'm just wondering if you could speak to that a bit.
Yeah, transit was definitely a consideration. Once we get outside of the city of Tampa and right around there, there isn't transit service to a lot of the county. So that was certainly a limiting factor. I think the biggest limiting factor was the jobs criteria, because we were looking specifically for areas that had recent economic development projects that totaled up to 200 jobs. And that was difficult to find. And the term compact was difficult to interpret. And so we looked at areas that had more of a street grid than, say, a large office park. And so the two areas that we wound up really focusing on was the West Shore area and the USF area. So we basically measured 3 miles from the traffic analysis zones, the TAZs, in those two areas where we were able to locate jobs, recent jobs, like over the last 2 years. So measured out 3 miles, that was the buffer that we used. So those two things were definitely the limiting factors.
Just wondering also, I mean, this is just kind of speculation, if large parts of the workforce continue to work from home, does proximity to employment centers become less of a factor?
That's a good question. It depends on who your workforce is. So if your folks are essential services, then it's not such a limiting factor being able to work from home. You still have to go to restaurant jobs and nursing jobs and teachers and police and fire. So those folks still have to report to work. The more white collar, higher income folks don't necessarily have that issue. But if you increased the area median income that you want to target for the bonuses up to 120%, 140%, then that work from home factor would be more significant, if that makes sense.
It does.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Strong, for your questions. I also would like to add that, only 20% of our population really went to work from home status. So I think that's really, really important to factor in that, 80% was still going to work every day throughout the pandemic. The other thing that I like to share is that, transit is a critical part of affordable housing and how we move forward. So we will be meeting with Hart, planning out, what our next steps should be and how that would certainly look, because we can't reduce parking if there's not enough transit services. Even in areas where there are transit services, is there enough? Is there enough, of buses running, maybe every 10 to 15 minutes as opposed to every 30 minutes or every hour, that would allow for the flexibility to get a resident to and from work, or to and from the child care centers or wherever else they would have to go. So some of those things really have to be, we have to look at the feasibility of it as well. And so we are not a transit-rich area yet, but we are working towards it. Catherine, thank you so much. This was excellent. I had seen some of it before. Are there any other questions from the board? Any other questions? Any other questions, Dr. Strom? Comments? Great. I'm so sorry that the commissioner was not able to be here this morning. She's certainly excited about the work that's being done and how we can move forward. So thank you so much, Catherine, for all your hard work.
Thank you so much. It was great being here today.
1 second, please. Mr. Powell has a question.
Mr. Rosenwasser?
Mr. Powell has a question.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Powell.
Thank you, Catherine, for the presentation. I'd seen this with the Planning Commission, and I very much appreciate you coming in and giving the presentation to this board. One of the things
Mr. Rosenwasser?
One of the things I was curious about was when you mentioned
Well, the next thing that's on our agenda this morning is the comp plan amendment update. Really, this is a City of Tampa comp plan update. I apologize, Mr. Powell, I couldn't hear you. I still can't.
They're working on it right now.
Okay, great, thank you.
hello? Two mics.
Testing 1, 2.
How does that go?
That's,
Is that better?
we can hear you. Go ahead.
All right, thank you so much. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Thank you, Catherine, for the presentation. I had a follow-up question because I've seen this already at the Planning Commission. What counties currently that you've spoken with are doing or getting more of the 4% and 9% tax credits versus us?
They appear to be on the 9% from last year. It appeared to be pretty even. Like one large county got one tax credit project each, the 9%. I think, if I remember correctly, Broward got 2. I have those data sets saved. I'm just having a hard time remembering what the numbers were because I went back 2 years. I can email those spreadsheets to you fairly easily. I've got them saved if you want that information. I just can't remember off the top of my head how many 4% projects there were, because they go through, typically the 4% projects are partnered with the sale financing. And so that's how those applications are broken out. And I've got that data. I just can't remember off the top of my head how many there were.
Okay, because I think you had said before that in order to have any income housing for...
Oops, I can't quite hear.
Okay.
All right, how about now? Am I back?
Great.
In order to get the 30 tax credit jobs for those that are in 30 or 50% of AMI, you need to have a 4% or 9% tax credit. So can we do in order to compete for those, tax credits is really like where I'm trying to figure out what we can do in order to, because that is really our biggest need in our county is those who are in the very, very low, income bracket. So what can we do to compete for those tax credits?
The biggest thing that you can do is financing, honestly, or funding, because the 4% tax credits only cover 30% of the project cost. That's why the 9% deals are so competitive, because they cover 70% of the project cost. So absolutely being able to give a developer that gap funding is very critical. Also reducing costs like application costs. So like I said, it's $10,000 to rezone a property at least, and that's not including all the soft costs that go with it. So just being able to reduce those soft cost fees are a big deal. All the developers that we talked to said impact fees were a huge consideration, and now Florida statute allows local governments to waive those fees entirely for affordable housing projects. So that's a huge deal, is waiving those impact fees. So just those three things would be incredible for developers.
Okay, and then I think you had mentioned before about the local criteria matching up with the Florida Housing Coalition. I don't know if you had a chance to look into that further to see, are we really matching up with the Florida Housing Coalition, or are we, so far off that we would maybe never be very competitive in order to get these tax credit incentives?
Oh, so yeah, I emailed the criteria to the staff to be able to distribute to y'all because you wanted to be able to see what they were. So for instance, the difference between Florida Housing and Hillsborough County as it relates to transit is the county just requires it to be within a mile of a transit line. And Florida Housing, the tax credits require them to be within a certain distance from a stop. And I think the greatest distance it can be from a stop is like 1/6 of a mile. It's pretty, it's a walkable distance. And then it has to have, I think, at least hourly frequency and run 12 hours per day. So it has those requirements as well. And those are tiebreaker points for the 9%, and for the 4%, it's just required to even get the tax credits with the sale financing. The jobs criteria is not considered for the tax credit criteria. Grocery stores are required. That's not in Hillsborough County, not one of the Hillsborough County criteria. So those are the big differences between the two.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else have questions for Ms. Hawley?
No. Mr. Rosenwasser, this is Ms. Howell. I'd just like to add that with the 9% tax credits, all of the large communities are able to get one tax credit deal per year unless it's a special populations deal. So for instance, year before last, we got two 9% tax credit deals. We got the regular 9% deal, and then we got a special needs project as well, and that was 9%. Typically, the 4% are open, whether that's through Florida Housing Finance Corporation or through our county housing finance authority. This past year, there was a change at the federal level, which helped to stabilize the 4% deals, and so it gave it a consistent percentage rate on it, which really created an opening for additional 4% deals. So I want to say that the county has supported a total of 7 or 8 4% deals over the past year. And those 4% deals are always coupled with either bond money, sale money, or sale and bond money as well. So they have to be in order to really move forward, because they cannot support all of the debt that's required, even for 60% and below. But if we want to really tackle 30% and below median family income, Mr. Powell, it really is going to require a lot more investment in the projects moving forward. Right now, our focus has been on 50% and below median family income, and that requires a lot of density. But I agree that that is our most vulnerable population, and we may need to put more effort towards that.
Thank you, Ms. Howell. Any other questions? Again, Ms. Hartley, I want to thank you for your time and your organization's effort in this project. Do we have anybody who is going to give the comprehensive plan amendment update?
Mr. Rosenwasser, this is Ms. Howell. The city had delayed the meeting on this the last time I checked, and so we are going to meet back up on to find out what the outcome is, if there's an outcome yet. So there's been a lot of back and forth and questions in regards to this comp plan amendment and the mixed use requirement and how it impacts affordable housing development. And this is primarily for the south part of the county, down near the Gandy area that we're focusing on.
Thank you, Ms. Howell. Okay, let's move on to the director's report. Ms. Howell, you're on a roll.
Okay, great. Good morning. Once again, we have an innovative housing presentation that is coming to you this morning. It's a short presentation, and I do suppose we have the young man on the line, Ms. McDonald. Okay, wonderful. I see his face here, and he has been doing some work for the East Tampa area. He's from East Tampa area and wants to come back home and bring his talents back home. And so he is interested in doing some innovative type housing out in that area. And without further ado, I'll just turn it over to him and let him share his ideas.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, hi, good morning. My name is Dontavius Pittman. I'm a native here of Tampa, Florida. I have just a little bit about me. I have a graduate degree in architecture from Florida International University and a bachelor's degree in architecture from FAMU. I have worked for two of the largest architecture firms in the state of Florida. Done a lot of work with the DOD, FDOT, just a lot of commercial work. And now I just want to start bringing more mission-based work to my career, and which is what brings me to this presentation today. So I'm going to share my screen here. Can you let me know when you can see the presentation?
We cannot see it.
Okay, hold on just a second.
Mr. Brewer, does he have sharing rights?
He should. Dontavius, do you see the share button on the bottom there?
Yes. I selected the share button, and now it states that it's connecting. I have a spinning window.
Okay.
Can you see it now?
I have nothing still. Do you have two screens right now, like two monitors? Is it maybe sharing another one, or?
No, I have a single monitor open now.
Okay. When you hit shared, is there a share screen or a share document option?
Share screen.
Okay, so when you hit share screen, nothing happens?
Yes, it asked me if I want to share my entire screen, and I selected the entire screen.
There you go.
All right, let's see.
Okay, now just go to your PowerPoint there.
Are we good now?
We're good now.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, sorry about the confusion. All right, good morning. So I would like to just share a concept of shipping container homes. I know it's kind of trendy right now, but I really believe that it can help resolve some issues that we're having with affordable housing and home ownership in the city of Tampa. So, container homes, just to give a brief explanation of them, they are they're homes made from containers. They're dwellings made from steel shipping containers that you would see on a huge ship bringing over our packages or the things that we order from overseas. A lot of times, the homes that we see made of containers are made from either 20-foot long containers or 40-foot long containers, which the 20-foot long containers, which are actually 20 by 8, can give us 160 square feet of living space per container. And the 40-foot long containers can give us 320 square feet of living space. Some of the benefits that I've found with diving into my research for container homes is that it takes a much shorter time to build a container home than it does to build a regular home or a normal construction. So in my research, I've found out that it takes about 10 to 12 weeks to actually construct a container home. That's site preparation and everything. Because once you drop the container on the site after the foundation is laid and the site is repaired, you're pretty much 60 to 70% done with your construction as soon as that container is securely fastened in place. There's an environmental appeal of container homes, which is, you're reusing a leftover product of the shipping container, of the shipping industry to make a home. A lot of these containers that are used for homes are single-use containers, which means that after they get used, they get tossed or they sit in a yard for the rest of eternity not being used because they've already served their purpose. And another benefit is the cost of actually building a shipping container home. Smaller, more basic container homes can range from $10,000 to $35,000, depending on who's doing the work. If it's a DIY project, you can probably get it done. If it's one container, probably about $10,000 to $20,000. And it just it's a better cost. Well, honestly, the cost, which I'll dive into in the next couple of slides, they're almost similar to normal construction, but time is always of the essence when constructing a project. Large homes built with multiple containers can range from $100,000 to $175,000. I don't know if any of you have seen the HGTV shows for container homes where they're building massive mansions out of containers, but that's when some of those prices start to get steep. Just breaking down some of the costs of containers. Containers, if you go buy one out of a shipping yard right now, you'll probably spend anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000 per container, depending on the type. It depends on the type of container that you want to use. 40-foot containers are going to be more expensive than the 20-foot containers, of course. But everything else is pretty much the same for construction. I mean, you're still building a foundation, which can be a slab on grade, which is a concrete slab, or you can have concrete piers or a raised crawl space foundation, as a lot of our homes in East Tampa have, like the bungalow style homes. You'll have the same cost for plumbing, electrical, cost per square foot. You have to create the openings in the containers, and these are just some of the costs to break down. They're in the presentation. This next slide I want to show here is an example of how close container homes are to Hillsborough County already. This project was completed by a family in Manatee County in Inglewood, Florida. Their reason for building this was that they wanted a lifestyle change and they wanted to minimize the things that they had and the space that they had to take care of. This home was created using 3 shipping containers, and it gives them about 960 square feet. As you can see, inside is modern living. They have laminate floors. They have a pretty nice sized kitchen, a living room as well. So when you think about container homes, I know it might seem like a compact space, but they're really getting the most efficient living out of these 3 containers. Another concept, which is totally different from just regular housing, is this is a mixed-use art studio in Pinellas Park. It was somewhat funded by the Pinellas County government, and this is used as an apartment and an art gallery for an artist. And this was made with 7 shipping containers and cost about $250,000. And it's currently being used to rent out art space and as an apartment for the artist. This is another example, just built in someone's backyard. It's an accessory unit. It's a rental unit. Costs about 50,000 square feet, and they use one container. I mean, $50,000, and they use one container. And here's another one in Australia, just to show you that this concept is it's being accepted all over the world. Now, my reason for talking about shipping containers is that I want to bring the idea of a more affordable, compact living concept, and I want to fuse that with permanent supportive housing. Now, permanent supportive housing, as many of you might be familiar with, it's an idea that combines affordable housing assistance with voluntary support services to address the needs of displaced and chronically homeless people. The services, they build independent living and tenancy skills, connect people with community-based care, treatment, and employment services. Now, how can supportive housing help? Investments in permanent supportive housing have helped decrease the number of chronically homeless individuals by 8% since 2007. This was a study done by HUD, the Housing and Urban Development. And it's also stated that it's a cost-effective solution. Permanent supportive housing has been shown to lower public costs associated with the use of crisis services such as shelters, hospitals, jails, and prisons. These are some of the demographics that I found for Hillsborough County this was a study done over the year 2020. There were 1,795 homeless people on any given night in Hillsborough County. 12.7 per 10,000 people in the general population. People experiencing chronic homelessness in 2020 was about 266 people. There were about 379 homeless families on any given day. And the homeless student count was about 4,240 on any given day. Unemployment rate was 4.7. These are just facts that are part of the presentation. So this is what I'm here to show you. This concept is already in place in Dallas, Texas, and it's called the Cottages of Hickory Crossing. They have built a large development for tiny homes as a project for supportive housing to support the 50 most chronic cases of homelessness in Dallas. It reimagines traditional models by abandoning section forms for separate but linked structures. The project size is 3 acres, and it's 50 cottages. They're all 430 square foot cottages, which is about the size of 2 containers, just a little larger. As you can see, they have built an entire community based on servicing the most underserved population in their city, which is the homeless. As stated by one of the designers, the cottages aren't temporary shelters, but they advocate for permanent supportive housing. And these homes are linked with services that can be occupied for as long as the residents meet minimum requirements. And what they do is the minimum requirements include paying rent, 30% of whatever income they might have, but the minimum is $50 a month. And I thought this was very interesting because permanent supportive housing is very much needed in Hillsborough County, as price for rent spikes and people are starting to move out of East Tampa and Hillsborough County to South County just to get away from the increased prices of rents that are being driven up. This next slide right here is going to show a concept that I have for container homes in East Tampa or Hillsborough County. This is 2 containers, very compact, but a very efficient use of space. As you can see, it shows 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, a living room of about 100 square feet, and a kitchen It's a nice size for cooking. And a buffet or banquet here, a breakfast nook. This is just showing how efficiently we can start living and how we can give people a more compact but affordable lifestyle. What I would like to bring to the table with these containers is a rental subsidy program for seniors and single parent families, which is the population that I would love to serve. The goals here for this program are to create self-sustaining tenants through collaboration with existing organizations, help tenants transition to home ownership after completing the program, educate at-risk youth and returning citizens in skilled trades by partnering with existing programs. So programs that are already in place with existing, with returning citizens, whether it be welding or construction programs that are teaching these people skilled trades, or even working with some of the schools in the county that already have programs with their students servicing. Needs for this program are, for the short term, I would like to create a pilot model, which can be placed on a minimum size 2,500 square foot lot. And honestly, the building for 2 containers is 16 feet wide, which, if we meet the minimum requirements for setbacks, that will equal about a 2,500 square foot lot. Doing my research, there are a lot of lots that we deem unbuildable in the county because they're too small to meet our regulations for zoning. And so I would like to take advantage of those lots by placing these smaller homes there to kick off this program. And what we need for the program is assistance with acquisition and construction funding. And for the long term of this project, I would love to collaborate with the county in any existing programs to create a village concept like the cottages in Dallas, Texas. Thank you, and here are my credentials. Once again, I am an architectural designer. I'm a licensed contractor in the state of Florida, and I have tons of experience doing commercial architecture and construction. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dontavius. Thank you so much. And to the board, Ms. Burke. So you brought us this true gem. Do you have any comments or questions?
Yes, Ms. Howell? I've had an opportunity to see the project in Dallas, as well as the one in Sao Paulo, as well, and in Australia during some of my travels. You typically find them in areas where major ports, because the cost of securing these containers is significantly lower, and locating them to a nearby city. In Brazil, for instance, I noticed that where they're the areas, the lower income areas, which are deplorable, are called favelas, and basically 3-sided houses. And these shipping containers they'll put a single next to a double, and it has improved both the quality of the housing and the affordability of the housing. They actually have bathrooms where in Rio and Sao Paulo, many of them don't. So it's a wonderful it's a wonderful idea, and I wish you the greatest success, and hopefully that we can the county can work with you in that area. A question from
Yes. So my comments is that, and I want to go to what the 2 callers, the public comments that were made this morning. The continual cry in our community to deal with this severe lack of affordable housing. And I hate to even say affordable housing now, because it has been so hijacked. But here's an opportunity, I believe, and this will not be the first county, but this county can show that it is willing to get on board with the aspiration of even what Hope proposed in their fine work in asking the county to set aside resources to start dealing with these issues. And so while we're talking about dealing with square footage that is not buildable for most traditional homes, this can be a first step toward dealing with some of the, ongoing issue. And to that point, I have a friend that has paid $1,300 a month for rent for the last 5 years. If she continued on with that trend, she would have paid almost $150,000 for rent. But if we move towards something that's more sustainable, this can be the leg up to creating equity. This don't have to be people's forever home, but this can be a start. So I'm just hoping that, people that talk about helping the most vulnerable, that when we see an opportunity like this, that we don't run away from it. I know that there's some cringing because developers might not necessarily like it, but if we have such a severe housing crisis right now, this is a first start, and it definitely would not tap into people's property. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Burton.
Thank you, Ms. Burton, for your comments. And so, we need all types of housing for all types of residents and needs in our community. Are there any other comments? I think I see another person on the line.
Hi, good morning. This question is for, I don't know if Don Tavius is still on the line.
Yes, I am.
Okay, wonderful. So just wanted to thank you for, thinking outside of the box when it comes to attainable housing and affordable housing. We did something similar called Sound and Secure Homes, where it was specifically for single parents, and it was a lease to purchase home. And it went really, really well. Our two mothers that were in the home, they're going to be owning their homes, one of them next month and the other hopefully in about 4 months. So it works. My question to you is, do you have a cost proposed for the container homes in Tampa, Florida? Have you got together some pricing on that?
Yes, I put together some construction costs for container homes, yes. Would you like for me to send that to you?
Yeah, I would love to learn about the pricing that you have, because I think that the idea that you have is something that we've talked about for years, and I think it's time for us to really give it a go at a larger scale to help the population that we've all been talking about every single meeting. So if you could send that to me, that would be wonderful.
Okay. May I have her contact information, please?
Ms. Howell, if you can have that shared with the entire committee, I think it would be a wonderful benefit for all of us.
Okay. Don Tavius, if you could share that with us, and we'll send it out to the group at large.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Any other questions?
Thank you so much. Are there any other questions? Ms. Strong, Dr. Strong.
Hi, thanks so much for the presentation. So my question for you is that you were comparing the container homes to stick-built homes in terms of the timing and the cost, but what about other kinds of manufactured homes? Are there advantages or disadvantages to container homes if you compare them to factory-built housing?
Yes, so, factory-built housing, honestly, container homes can be factory-built. But you have the option of building them on site, which means you have the option of modifying them during construction instead of just purchasing them from a manufacturer to just drop it on site. So I guess that would be it. The customability of building these homes on site would be the benefit here.
Thank you.
Okay. What about price variation, Dontavius? Manufacturing versus container built. Is there any benefit?
So honestly, because containers are a variable cost, honestly. So with manufactured homes, you have the price is the price with buying these manufactured homes, these new manufactured homes. Let's say I wanted to go purchase a container to put on the site today, right? The price could be $1,000 today, I mean, or it could be $2,000 tomorrow. You have enough room in here to negotiate the construction cost for your home.
Okay, great, great. Any other questions or comments?
I was just curious, did you look into whether these could be financed and then also be insured and how compared to a mobile home or a manufactured home?
Yes, so honestly, with the, as long as we adhere to the building codes, and they are hurricane sustainable, they meet all NOC and Florida guidelines, they can be insured. And financing, for financing, I haven't found a financial institution that specifically or out loud, I haven't found a financial institution that generally states that they support container homes.
Mm-hmm. And that's typical, you know. So the banking industry always kind of lags behind. You know, when mobile homes first came about, there was a lag. You know, for manufacturing home, there was a lag as well. And so we're seeing that same lag with container homes and with tiny homes as well. And so that's why in most areas they've been done as a rental component with some kind of public subsidy if they're done like as villages, or they're done as rental in most places. You might have a developer come in and create a village for rental. And then there are the one-offs where you get homeowners that make that that investment from their private funds.
Ms. Howell, we do have Chrissy that has her hand up for a question.
Oh, that was me that just asked my question. Thank you, Natasha.
All right.
But
Your hand's
Octavius,
up.
I was super impressed with the fact that you're coming home to do this project. And like Sarah said, we've been hearing about this for years, so it's really cool to finally see a real presentation in front of us that's like, this is where I want to do it and this is how. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Chrissy.
Great, thank you so much.
Okay, we have a question from Ms. Burton.
Are there any other questions from the board?
I just want to state also that the container that's over in Pinellas Park has been featured on one of those like home
I think Discovery Channel.
right,
Yes.
programs. And it was even refreshing to see how the county, the city over there embraced it in terms of what Mrs. Howell just laid out. Sometimes banks are lagging, and then the county stepped in and took on that project to just move it forward. So thank you again, Mr. Pittman, for a wonderful presentation.
Thank you. Ms. Abel?
Okay.
So the next step from that question is the county stepped in Pinellas Park. So what would we do? What would be the next step to initiate something like a container community?
So typically, the way that the county does it is that we go through a small RFP process to look and see what kind of vendors are out there that'll bring us the best deal. And so, you know, we don't. Innovative housing is a part of our whole plan already, and so certainly we'll be looking into moving forward pretty soon with something of that nature.
Thank you.
And I might add that on the projects that I've seen, the long-term and short-term maintenance of those innovative housing is significantly less due to the steel construction. It's it is no termite issues like we have so much here in Florida, and it's significantly less, so that the maintenance costs are more bearable for both either the owner or the county.
This is exciting. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. Burton. Thank you, Dontavius. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Okay, great. And we're going to move on in our agenda now. And so we're coming to the Affordable Housing Services priorities. and resources. I'm going to share my screen with you. Are you able to see it?
Yes, if you could make it a full
Yes.
screen, that would be better.
Okay, make it larger.
Please. And just kind of, yeah,
Okay.
you can move it around, we can then, yeah, it's more readable now.
Okay.
Ms. Howell, you might be able to hit the view button on the top left, and you might be able to do full screen.
On the top left?
Yeah, keep going up. Right there to the left. View.
Mm-hmm.
There should be a full screen mode down there.
Okay, let's see what we got here.
Oh, there you
Great, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And so I did want to share with you where we are in terms of the different type of projects that we've taken on. What's happened over the course of the last, I want to say, 8 to 10 months. We kind of had to change courses as we went into the pandemic. Our efforts and energies were taken in a number of other directions in trying to stabilize the community. And so I kind of wanted to circle back around with you to inform you of where we are, what kind of projects we've taken on, and where we're moving forward. So we put forth a 10-point affordable housing response plan to how to sustain our efforts during this pandemic. We looked at a number of different programs. The landlord eviction program, the displacement program for rental and mortgage assistance, lease acquisition of a motel, rapid rehousing, shared housing for 50 targeted neighborhood rehab, eviction forgiveness, nonprofit guaranteed landlord rehab program, private unit rental subsidy, and elderly and medically vulnerable for temporary placement. And so while this was a robust plan, we've not been able to take on all of these things all at once. And so I do want to share with you what we have been able to do, what we found some difficulty in helping to roll out because it takes partners all around to make this happen, and how we're going to move forward. So when we look at the community impacts that we've made thus far, with the multifamily preservation and the new construction, we're looking at a total of 916 apartment units that are underway. And those are with 9% tax credits and 4% tax credits, and some just local housing funding. So we've been able to do an acquisition rehab of a small motel. We have done an acquisition rehab of a 28-unit apartment complex. We have a 20-unit apartment complex that's underway right now. We have another veterans housing apartment that is under rehab right now. We have two 4% deals that are underway that were funded with the HOPE funding. We have a Blue Sky deal that'll be going to the board on Wednesday, and that is for $5.9 million. And I want to say that is 64 units. We have another deal that's 125 units, and that's a 4% deal that'll be coming to the board. We have a 100-unit apartment complex, senior apartment complex for South Hillsborough County that'll be coming to the board. We have one being built in Brandon right now, and a couple of other ones that's in the early stages. In the eviction prevention program, we've been able to assist 1,649 households. And for the rapid rehousing, we've been able to assist 97 households through our partner agencies. When we're looking at leveraging of local funding, we have leveraged more than $170 million in local funding for the projects that we've taken on thus far. Even with our eviction prevention and our rapid rehousing, we've been able to leverage some state funding with that as well. In our innovative housing, we've been able to do 2 units. And when I talk about the innovative housing, I want to take you back a little bit where we, and this is for our shared housing for singles 50 plus years old. So thus far, we have 2 single family houses that are set up. One is set up specifically for veterans, and the other is set up specifically for women, and they're all over 50 plus years old. We have been able to provide 49 households with down payment assistance, and this is in the last 8 months. We've been able to assist with 25 new homes that's under construction. We've been able to assist 6 households for targeted rehab, and 6 are pending right now. So when you look at that targeted rehab program, we've been able to launch that as well. And so we've been pretty busy in all areas. As you can see, that we need all of our tools in the toolbox to try to move the needle. And I know sometimes it doesn't feel like the needle is being moved, but what I can share with you with our multifamily preservation, in our new construction, we have been able to really focus on our 50% and below median family income. We have made wise investments and really pushed our developers to increase their efforts and really maximize on this on the 4% stabilization that occurred at the federal level as well. But as you can see, home ownership is still underway. And our ability to really kind of take a look at the whole picture in trying to leverage our funding with the federal and the state funds as well. And so what does that look like in terms of the money that's been spent? 48% of the funds that we've utilized have gone towards multifamily rental. 18% has gone towards a rapid rehousing. We have eviction prevention at 20%. And these are things, you know, some of the eviction prevention was really accelerated due to the pandemic, you know, and as we see some of our families becoming a little bit more stabilized, we'll see a drop in some of those as well. Our targeted housing rehab, really, there's a real need to preserve the existing housing that's owned by low and moderate income families. And of course, you see, we only put 1% of our funding towards down payment assistance. So we had a little bit of slowdown with that, but not a whole lot of slowdown. So typically we have anywhere from 2 to 4%. So as we're moving forward in forecasting and projecting where our needs going to go, we're looking at about 35% as opposed to the 48% that's going towards multifamily rental. We're looking at a slight increase of 5% for single family new construction, simply because there's a real push from the federal government right now. There's an increase in funding, but a real push from the federal government right now to increase single family homes for very low income families. Also, we are looking at a 15% increase for shared housing. What we have come to the conclusion of is that, you know, we are not able to acquire and rehab these homes fast enough. We're not able to build the units fast enough, not based on the need. And so We need all of our resources in order to help as many people as possible. And while some of our families do fall through the crack, we are working very diligently with our partners on our rapid rehousing program and also on our eviction prevention program. And we're looking at increasing our targeted rehab to 10% as opposed to, I want to say, as opposed to 7%. And we are looking to increase our down payment assistance from 1% to 5% in the upcoming year. And so I just kind of wanted to be able to share with you where affordable housing has been, just taking a look back on the type of things that we took on, where we were, and where we're going to move forward as the funding comes in.
Ms. Howell,
Are there any questions?
I want to say that while the pandemic was a very devastating event, it's changed the thought process of many people relative to the size of their home needs, to sharing of needs, and it's and your department has done an amazing job with that. I want to commend you for that.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rosenwald, sir. I'd like to open it up to the board for questions. Dr. Strong.
Hi, could you talk just a second about the emergency rental assistance? So I assume that's all federal dollars coming through CARES and subsequent acts. And so have you, I know some local governments have had trouble spending down the money they got because they had to stand up the program so quickly. So do you feel like Hillsborough County was able to mobilize and get people what they needed? And how much of the money have you spent down, do you know?
And so what I can share with you is that the emergency rental assistance program comes out of the Social Services Department and not the Affordable Housing Services Department. And so sometimes the lines kind of blur, and we'll work together to put those projects up on the back end. But that is a program that comes out of Social Services, Ms. Audrey Ziegler. But when I share the numbers that I share with you, this is in addition to what they have been able to do in social services. So some money has come directly to what they call entitlement communities, to the Affordable Housing Department to distribute it. So we had CRF funding, that's a coronavirus relief fund that came directly from the state, and we were able to provide some rental assistance in the gap. There was a gap between the first CARES dollars and the second ERAP dollars that came out. And so we were able to provide some rental assistance with that. But with the ERAP dollars, they would not be able to provide mortgage assistance. So what we did was we quickly pivoted to providing primarily mortgage assistance for those families that were in need. And so we're still doing that right now, providing mortgage assistance. In terms of the ERAP dollars, because of some of the I want to say some of the stringencies in the program, there has been some slowdown. There may be a slowdown in some needs. There has been some slowdown in how they deliver the products. You know, some of it has been application processes. Some of it has been landlord issues. Just a number of different issues. But Ms. Ziegler could probably speak best to what's causing some of the slowdowns. But I can share with you that Hillsborough County is ahead above the rest in terms of spending down their funding and the different avenues that they've opened up so that people can access that funding.
Thanks.
Ms. Howell, I want to comment that as somebody in the apartment industry, in the rental industry, I am amazed at the efforts that both your department and social services have made to reach out to the community and get them to provide feedback and input into the availability of those programs. You and social services have really done an unbelievable job, and as you said, you had to pivot a little bit, actually quite a bit, to help on the mortgage side, but you did it seamlessly, and you and social services are to be commended. I saw Mr. Burton's hand.
Yes, Ms. Howell, could you speak to the targeted housing rehab program as it relates to East Tampa, please?
Yes, ma'am. I absolutely can. So for the targeted housing rehab program, we utilize some SHIP funding for that, but the SHIP funding can only be spent in unincorporated Hillsborough County. But what we did was we added in some HOPE funding as well. So we put $1.5 million of HOPE funding so that we could serve some of those areas that fall within the city of Tampa as well. And so we know that the lines that are geographical lines are very hard lines, and if a person lives on one side of the street and not the other, then they fall within the city of Tampa. But we also know that that the needs and the needs of the people and what they're suffering by doesn't blur. And so we created this program because that pot of funding can be used throughout Hillsborough County within all the municipalities to really further enhance our ability to impact our residents that are in need and to preserve that housing.
Thank you.
And so those two programs are underway. So we got Center for Women and East Tampa Business and Civic Association that currently accepting applications. So if you know anybody that's in need that need rehab work on their homes, certainly they're open for business. We're open for business, and so they can reach out directly to our department, or to Center for Women or East Tampa.
Any other questions regarding the subject? Thank you, Ms. Howell. You want to proceed?
Okay. Are there any other questions? I just want to say thank you to the board. Thank you for your support, your encouragement, your advocacy. We have a yeoman's job to do, and you guys certainly are up to it. Thank you so much for all that you do.
Thank you. Thank you for everything your department does as well.
Let me get back to the agenda here. I'm working on two different items. We have the Florida Housing Coalition is having their annual conference from August 30th to September 1st. And so we open up that conference for training opportunities for our board members. And so if you'd like to participate, please send your name to Ms. McDonald, and she'll get you registered for that conference. This year, the conference will be virtual as well. And we're going to bring to you one more training opportunity before the end of this year that you'll be able to participate in, and that's going to be a face-to-face conference. I don't have that information for you today, but I will have it for you next month. Okay. We are updating our calendar for the year as well. Our calendar is going to be updated. We will not be having a meeting in December. We will not be having a meeting in December, and so any items that we typically would take care of in December would be moved up to November or moved forward to January. And so you'll get a little bit of a break there. You have a list of recently approved board agenda items in your packet. We provide those for you each month. If there are any questions or comments on any of the agenda items that went forth. I'll take those questions and comments at this time.
Are there any questions? Yep. Sarah, you kind of look like you wanted to.
Yeah, I do. I have a question.
Ms. Combs has a question.
Yeah, I was looking at the, let's see, agenda item D1 in regards to the list of real property inventory, and maybe can just get an update on that surplus land RFP. I know at our last meeting you discussed wanting to rezone several of the properties before it went to RFP, but as you know, rezoning can take a year or longer, probably a little bit shorter on the inside. But just after seeing D1, wanted to find out if there was an update on the surplus land RFP that was scheduled to go, or is scheduled to go out.
Yes, and so after I got the timing from Development Services on that, we're pulling one of those parcels off, and we're going to move forward with the 3 primary parcels that we were going to move forward on. Well, actually, it's 4. It's one large one that's an assemblage of properties, and that's we reference it as one property. That's Lockheed Lane, and then we have the Town Center property, the property off Ehrlich, and the Knoll Pine Way property. We're going to move forward on those properties for RFP. In the 66th Street property that we were looking at for rezoning, we're gonna pull that property and be able to do the back work on that property before we bring it forward, Sarah.
Okay, thank you for that update.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Well, let me look at my agenda again here.
Next item would be.
We have I'm sorry?
The next item would be the Affordable Housing Services Report, followed by the grant updates.
We have our Affordable Housing Service reports. They're included in there. If you have any questions, please, I'll take those questions or comments now.
Any questions? Okay.
With our federal, state, and local grant updates, I did want to bring you a bit of good news. And so we are looking as if we're going to get about $7 million, a little over $7 million from this year's SHIP distribution. And so we're really, really excited about that. It's our hope that those dollars will remain consistent as we move forward. And so that's been the promise thus far. So that should be that should be our allocation amount, or around the same amount for each and every year moving forward, unless we see a tremendous spike or loss in dock stamps. We don't have any other updates in terms of the federal funding or any infrastructure funding, any additional funding for housing or financing options at this time from the federal government. I'm keeping my my eye on everything very, very closely. So as things begin to roll out and there are opportunities that exist, I will share those with you. I will not wait until our affordable housing meeting or our AHAB meeting to share that information out. I begin to just send that information out because some of it may require you, if you're interested, to respond to grants in a pretty short timeline, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
And I want to say we have our monthly newsletter that we've shared with you, and that is all for me today.
That newsletter is amazing. It really provides a lot of information in a very concise manner.
And every month we feature one of our projects. So.
Thank you very much, Ms. Howell. Are there any more questions? Ms. Combs?
Yes, I had a question. I know we are having some IT and sound issues at the beginning, but for public comment, we did have someone that was requesting information in regards to the HOPE funds. I don't know if you caught that, Cheryl, but is there a way that we can give them an itemized report on where those HOPE funds were spent? I know that that was the request this morning, and I think that I don't know if you heard that. We had some troubles with, like I said, the sound, and so just wanted to bring that request to the board once again.
I think that was Ms. McCoy.
I certainly, I heard the comments that was made, and Sarah, and so I meet with Hope. I want to say I probably meet with them about once a quarter to give them an update. You know, typically on public records requests, we don't create reports based on public records requests, but I will provide them with all the information that we have. It appears that they may have a disconnect with information that was shared with them, because you certainly know that there is a little over $5 million from HOPE funding that went towards a UACDC Blue Sky project. And so, and that wasn't mentioned either. But yes, we would be more than happy to share the information that we have.
And if we could get that information as well, I think the board would probably appreciate seeing where the $10 million is going specifically. And, you know, again, want to thank the HOPE Fund as well as Hillsborough County for awarding $5.8 million to Uptown Sky, which will provide 61 multifamily units for low-income residents in the community. So very appreciative of that funding, and thank HOPE for all that they did to get that funding as well.
Great. And just an FYI, what I'll do is we had an RFP for, I want to say $19 million that went out for several different multifamily projects. Your particular project was included in there, Sarah, and I'll send that out to the board at large. And that includes all of the funding that's been encumbered and allocated for HOPE projects.
Fantastic. Really appreciate that.
I've shared that with the board previously, but I share it with them again.
Thank you very much. Any other questions of Ms. Howell? Ms. Howell, thank you very much for your very detailed information. Are there any future business items that the board wants to bring up? Okay, seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. The meeting is adjourned at, I guess, 10:35.